You know, every medical case is kind of like a puzzle, a mystery just waiting to be cracked. And today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating one. We're looking at a real-life patient file for what we're calling the case of the missing period. So, let's jump right in and look at the first clue.
Okay, every good mystery needs that one compelling detail, right? That one thing that just makes you go, hmm. And this one is a real head-scratcher for sure. This single little note from her case file, it immediately tells us something is off. This is the first thread we've got to pull if we're going to unravel this whole thing.
All right, so who are we talking about here? Our patient is a 38-year-old woman, and on the surface, her main problem seems, well, pretty straightforward. Her periods have gotten irregular. But as you're about to see, that is just the tiniest tip of the iceberg. The story gets way more complex.
So when you look at all these clues together, it honestly seems totally random at first. I mean, her period stopped, then there's that really strange milky discharge we talked about. On top of that, she's gaining weight, she's tired all the time, and even her hair and skin are changing. It's like this whole laundry list of issues that don't seem to have anything to do with each other. But here's something that's just as important. What's not on the list? She says she has no headaches and no vision changes. Now that might seem like a small detail, but trust me, it's a huge clue that's going to help us narrow down our list of suspects.
Okay, to really start organizing all this evidence, we need to speak the right language. Let's translate these symptoms into their proper medical terms. It'll help us see things a lot more clearly.
So, that first symptom, her periods becoming really infrequent? Well, that has a medical name, oligomenorrhea. Basically, it just tells us that her normal cycle has been seriously disrupted. We don't know why yet, but it's the opening chapter of this whole mystery. And then, things got worse. The problem progressed from just being infrequent, oligomenorrhea, to what's called amenorrhea. And that means her periods just stopped, completely, for 3 months. So we've gone from irregular to a total shutdown.
And what about that weirdest clue of all? The milky discharge. Yep, that has a name too. Galactorrhea. And this is a huge signpost in our investigation. I mean, it's just so out of place for someone who hasn't breastfed in years. It really stands out.
All right, now that we've got our evidence all defined and organized, it's time to line up the suspects. In the medical world, this is called a differential diagnosis. It's basically a methodical way of listing all the possible culprits that could be behind her symptoms.
Okay, let's run down this list one by one. First up, pregnancy. Well, she had a negative test, so we can cross that right off. What about polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS? It's unlikely. She doesn't have the classic signs like obesity or what's called hirsutism, which is excess hair growth. A pituitary tumor? That could explain the discharge for sure. But wait, remember how she had no headaches or vision changes? Those are huge red flags for a pituitary tumor, so that makes it less likely. Ovarian failure? The symptoms just don't fit. But then we get to hypothyroidism, and suddenly, things start to click. Fatigue, weight gain, these are classic signs. All of a sudden, we've got ourselves a really strong lead.
So our whole investigation is now pointing to one prime suspect, the thyroid gland. Let's really dig into this. How could this one tiny, butterfly-shaped gland in your neck be the mastermind behind this whole mess of seemingly unconnected symptoms? It sounds wild, but let's check it out.
So what even is hypothyroidism? Well, it's actually pretty simple. It just means your thyroid gland isn't making enough thyroid hormone. A great way to think about it is like the engine for your body's metabolism is just running way too slow.
And you know, this isn't some super rare 1 in a million condition. A whopping 95% of cases are caused by a problem with the thyroid gland itself. That's huge. So this isn't just a possible explanation anymore, it's a highly probable one.
And this is that aha moment. This is where it all clicks. So how can one single condition explain everything? Let's connect the dots. Her menstrual problems? Turns out the whole hormonal pathway to the ovaries is super sensitive to thyroid levels. That weird discharge? Hyperthyroidism can actually cause a spike in prolactin, the very hormone that makes milk. And the weight gain, the fatigue, the changes to her skin and hair, all of those are classic, textbook symptoms of a metabolism that's just slowed to a crawl. Every single clue suddenly points to one single unifying diagnosis.
Okay, we have our prime suspect. We have a rock-solid theory. So now it's time for the final act of this investigation. We need to confirm the diagnosis with cold, hard evidence. And most importantly, we need to actually solve this woman's problem and get her back on track.
So how do we prove it? It's actually incredibly simple.
We use a single blood test that measures something called thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH. Now, think of it like this. Your brain's pituitary gland senses that thyroid hormone is low. So what does it do? It starts shouting at the thyroid to work harder by pumping out more TSH. So if we see a really high TSH level in her blood, that's our smoking gun. It proves the thyroid isn't listening.
You know, this whole case is just a perfect example of the power of the clinical pathway. It's not guesswork. It's a logical, step-by-step process. You start by gathering clues from the patient's story, you do a physical exam, and then you use specific lab tests to find the answer. Once we confirm the diagnosis of hypothyroidism, the final step is putting her on a clear path to getting better.
And you know what? The resolution to this whole medical mystery is actually beautifully simple. The treatment is just a once-a-day pill called levothyroxine. It's just a synthetic version of the exact hormone her body needs but can't make enough of. Once she starts replacing it, her body's engine can finally get back up to speed, and all of those confusing symptoms just fade away. Case closed.
I think this case is such a powerful reminder of just how interconnected our bodies really are. I mean, think about it. One tiny problem in a small gland in your neck can send ripples through your entire system, causing problems with everything from your hair to your menstrual cycle. It really leaves you with a pretty fascinating question to ponder, doesn't it? What other seemingly separate parts of our bodies are deeply connected in ways we're only just starting to figure out?